The world will not always be fair to you. That is one of the first truths you need to accept if you want to become someone who cannot easily be broken. You can do everything the right way and still come out losing. You can stay loyal to someone who ends up betraying you. You can work harder than everyone around you and still watch someone else walk away with the opportunity you wanted. You can treat people with respect and find out they never give it back. You can speak the truth and still be misunderstood. This is not always because you did something wrong. Sometimes it is simply because life does not follow the rules you wish it would. Most people are not broken by hardship itself. They are broken by the shock of realizing that life owes them nothing. They grow up believing that if they behave well, they will be treated well. They assume kindness always gets returned, loyalty always gets matched, and effort always brings quick results. Then reality shows up. Someone lets them down. A chance slips away, a relationship falls apart, a plan falls to pieces, and suddenly they feel like life itself has betrayed them. But if you want to become tough in the way this world requires, not cold, not heartless, but mentally unshakable, you must stop believing in your own illusions. Stop expecting people to treat you the way you treat them just because that is your standard. You might be honest, but that does not mean the next person will be. You might keep your word, but plenty of people will break theirs. You might be genuinely happy for someone else's success, while another person quietly wishes you would fail. You might give someone a second chance while they use it to repeat the exact same mistake. Your task is not to grow bitter over this. Your task is to see it for what it is. Seeing clearly is its own kind of power. Once you stop expecting fairness from everyone, disappointment loses some of its grip on you. You start paying attention to actions instead of making excuses for them. If someone keeps disrespecting you, stop asking why they cannot understand how you feel and start noticing the pattern instead. If someone keeps taking without giving anything back, stop pretending the relationship is balanced just because you want it to be. If an opportunity vanishes, stop spending months wondering why you deserved it and start asking what you should do next. This does not mean you become suspicious of everyone around you. That is not real strength. Being cynical is just another form of weakness because it lets your past experiences control your future choices. Becoming tough means staying open to good people while no longer being blind to bad patterns. You can trust people without being naive. You can be kind without letting yourself be used. You can forgive someone without handing them unlimited access to your life. Think about rejection for a moment. Most people treat rejection like a verdict on who they are. Someone says no, and right away the mind starts telling a story. I must not be attractive enough. I must not be successful enough. I must not be worthy. But rejection does not carry that much meaning. All it tells you is that one person, one chance, or one situation was not the right fit. It can still hurt, but the pain does not make that story true. The same idea applies to failure. When something does not work out, look at it honestly. Instead of turning it into proof of who you are as a person, maybe your preparation fell short. Maybe your approach was off, maybe your timing was wrong, maybe things outside your control got in the way. Whatever the reason turns out to be, pull the lesson out of it. A tough mind never wastes pain, it studies it. This is also why you have to be careful with criticism. Some criticism holds real truth inside it. Some criticism is just another person's own insecurity talking. If someone points out a weakness you genuinely have, be grateful reality showed it to you and get to work fixing it. If someone attacks you simply because your growth makes them uncomfortable, you do not have to treat their words as fact. Learn to tell the difference between useful feedback and emotional noise, and stop waiting for everyone to understand the path you have chosen. As you become more disciplined, Some people may start calling you extreme. As you set boundaries, someone may accuse you of turning into a different person. As you stop chasing approval, the people who benefited from your need for it may suddenly feel uneasy. You do not owe anyone a return to your old self just because they liked you better that way. The world will test you through uncertainty, disappointment, rejection, failure, and change you did not see coming. You cannot control when these things arrive, but you can control what you decide they mean. You can let them become proof that life is against you, or you can turn them into lessons that make you wiser. There is a real difference between saying, "The world is unfair, so nothing matters," and saying, "The world is unpredictable, so I will get ready for it." The first mindset breeds helplessness. The second builds strength. You cannot control whether someone respects you, but you can control the standards you hold yourself to. You cannot control when an opportunity shows up, but you can control whether you are ready for it when it does. You cannot control whether someone chooses to stay in your life, but you can control whether you lose yourself trying to keep them there. You cannot control every outcome, but you can always control how you respond. That is where your real power starts. Get ruthless with the fantasy that everyone will treat you fairly. Face reality without bitterness, accept disappointment without giving up, and take a lesson from every experience without letting it define you. Because the moment you stop expecting the world to protect you, you can finally start building the strength it takes to protect yourself. And that fight begins with the weaknesses living inside you. Once you accept that the world will not always look out for you, you run into a harder truth. Sometimes the person keeping you weak is you. Not because you lack ability, but because you have gotten used to bargaining with the very habits that hold you back from growing stronger. You tell yourself you will start tomorrow. You promise yourself this is the last time you will put up with disrespect. You know exactly what needs to change, yet you keep making excuses because staying comfortable feels easier than transforming. This is where you need to stop negotiating with your own weaknesses. Being ruthless does not mean hating who you are. It means refusing to keep striking deals with the parts of you that quietly sabotage your future. If procrastination keeps wrecking your progress, you cannot keep brushing it off as a harmless quirk. If fear keeps stopping you from taking the action you need to take, you cannot keep calling that avoidance being careful. If people-pleasing keeps you giving up your own boundaries, you cannot keep calling that kindness. You have to get brutally honest about the patterns making your life smaller than it should be. Most people want the results discipline brings without wanting the discomfort that comes with it. They want confidence without ever facing their fear. They want respect without ever learning to set boundaries. They want success without letting go of the habits keeping them comfortable. They want a stronger future while still protecting the weaker version of themselves that built the present. You cannot have it both ways. Every time you pick comfort over what you know you need to do, you strengthen the habit of avoiding it. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you teach your own mind that your word carries no weight. And when you keep ignoring your own standards, your confidence starts to fade, not because someone else stole it from you, but because you stopped believing yourself. Self-trust gets built through action. If you tell yourself you will wake up early and then keep hitting snooze, the real problem is not just the missed morning. You are teaching yourself that your own intentions can be brushed aside. If you decide to start exercising and keep finding reasons not to, you are reinforcing the belief that discomfort has more power over you than your goals do. If you promise yourself you will stop chasing people who disrespect you and then come running back the moment they toss you the smallest bit of attention, you are teaching yourself that being alone scares you more than being humiliated does. At some point, the negotiating has to stop. You do not need to become perfect. You need to become consistent. You will still fail sometimes. You will have weak days. You will lose motivation here and there. There will be moments you slip back into old patterns. Being ruthless means refusing to let one failure turn into your identity. You correct course and keep going. You do not spend weeks tearing yourself apart over a single mistake. You learn from it, make an adjustment, and move forward. Fear is another weakness that deserves careful attention. Fear serves a purpose when it warns you of real danger, but it turns destructive the moment it starts making every uncomfortable moment look like a threat. Fear tells you to stay quiet because you might get judged. It tells you not to begin because you might fail. It tells you not to walk away because you might end up alone. It tells you to stick with what is familiar because the unknown feels risky. If you listen to every one of those messages, your world keeps shrinking. You have to learn to tell danger apart from discomfort. They are not the same thing. Discomfort tends to show up right when you are growing. Fear can appear right before a big decision. Nervousness can show up right before you take a risk. You do not have to wait until those feelings disappear before you act. You just need to stop letting them call all the shots. The same idea applies to your need for approval. When your choices always depend on what other people might think, you're letting invisible opinions run your life. Someone might criticize your goals. Someone might laugh at your ambition. Someone might not understand why you've changed. But if your whole direction shifts every time someone disapproves, you don't really own your life. You need to become ruthless about your desire to be understood by everyone. You should still listen to fair criticism. You should still be able to admit when you're wrong. But you shouldn't give up your goals just because someone else feels uncomfortable with them. Your future can't be built by a committee. Discipline also means doing simple things over and over again. Real strength almost never comes from one big dramatic choice. It comes from thousands of small choices that no one ever sees. Showing up to work even when you don't feel motivated. Practicing even when progress feels slow. Saving money when spending would be so much easier. Studying when there's entertainment waiting for you instead. Walking away from an argument when your ego wants to fight back. Saying no when saying yes would make someone happy for a moment. These moments seem small, but they shape who you are. Over time, you become someone who understands that emotions can speak without being obeyed. Your impulses can show up without becoming orders. Your fear can exist without deciding your path. Your comfort can tempt you without controlling you. That's the kind of toughness that makes a person hard to break. The world will still let you down sometimes. People may still betray you. Circumstances may still shift. But once you've built the discipline to control yourself, the chaos outside loses some of its grip on you. You no longer need everything to be perfect before you move forward. Get ruthless with the habits that make you weak, because the strongest person isn't the one who controls everyone around him. It's the one who has learned to control himself. And once you can handle your own weaknesses, you're ready to decide who actually deserves your time, your energy, your trust, and your life. There comes a moment when getting stronger stops being about what you can put up with and starts being about what you're no longer willing to accept. You can build discipline, manage your emotions, and be honest about your flaws. But if you keep giving unlimited access to people who drain you, manipulate you, disrespect you, or disturb your peace, you're still leaving the door wide open for the world to hurt you. Strength needs boundaries, and boundaries need the courage to admit that not everyone deserves equal access to your life. Most people mix up kindness with being endlessly available. They think being a good person means always picking up, always helping, always forgiving, always explaining yourself, and always giving one more chance. But there's a real difference between generosity and abandoning yourself. You can care about someone without letting them consume you. You can forgive someone without letting the same behavior back into your life. You can understand someone's struggles without accepting their repeated disrespect. This is exactly where you need to get ruthless. You have to become ruthless about who gets your attention. Attention is one of the most precious things you own because wherever your attention goes, your energy follows right behind it. If you spend hours arguing with someone who's only trying to provoke you, you've handed them control over your mind. If you're constantly checking on someone who makes you anxious, you've let their behavior take over your thoughts. If you keep explaining your boundaries to someone who already understands them and just chooses to ignore them anyway, you're wasting your energy trying to convince someone who actually benefits from your weakness. Sometimes the strongest response isn't another explanation, it's distance. A boundary isn't a threat, it's a decision about how you'll behave. You don't need to say, "You'd better respect me." You can simply decide what you're going to do when disrespect shows up. If someone keeps talking to you in a way you won't accept, you can end the conversation. If someone keeps taking advantage of your generosity, you can stop giving them what they exploit. If someone keeps creating chaos in your life, you can limit their access to you. What matters most is staying consistent. A boundary that only shows up when you're angry isn't really a boundary. It's just an emotional reaction. A real boundary stays in place even after the emotion fades. You decide ahead of time what behavior you'll accept and what behavior will make you step back, and then you follow through without unnecessary drama. This part is hard because some people will test you the moment they notice you're changing. They might be shocked when you stop replying right away. They might call you cold once you stop tolerating things you used to accept. They might remind you of everything they've done for you. They might try to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. Don't mistake guilt for wrongdoing. Sometimes guilt just means you're doing something you're not used to. If you've spent years trying to please everyone, saying no can feel selfish even when it's completely reasonable. If you've always made yourself available, creating some distance can feel harsh even when it's necessary. Your emotions might push back against the new standard simply because they're used to the old one. That's why you need to learn to watch behavior instead of listening to promises. People can say they respect you while they keep crossing your boundaries anyway. They can apologize again and again without ever changing what they do. They can promise things will be different and then slide right back into the same pattern. Listen to the words, but measure them against the actions. A genuine apology eventually leads to different behavior. Without real change, an apology is just another part of the same cycle. At the same time, don't become so guarded that you shut everyone out. Being ruthless doesn't mean closing yourself off from the world. It means becoming more selective. There are people who've earned your trust, people who support your growth, people who tell you the truth without trying to control you, and people who respect your boundaries even when they don't agree with them. Those relationships shouldn't be torn down just because other people have hurt you. The goal isn't to trust no one. The goal is to trust wisely. You also need to stop believing that every relationship has to be saved. Some relationships simply reach their end. Some friendships turn unhealthy. Some connections belong to a version of your life that's already past. Some people mattered to you once but no longer fit where you're headed now. Letting go of a relationship doesn't automatically make you disloyal. Sometimes it just means you finally realize that holding on costs more than letting go ever would. And when you walk away, don't turn it into revenge. You don't need to humiliate anyone. You don't need to expose them. You don't need to make sure they regret losing you. The strongest boundary is usually the quiet one. You simply step away from the situation and keep building your life. Revenge keeps you emotionally tied to the person you claim to have left behind. Peace asks for something different. indifference to how they react. Your time belongs to you. Your attention belongs to you. Your energy belongs to you. Your trust has to be earned. Your presence shouldn't be treated like an unlimited resource. The world becomes far less able to break you once you stop letting every single person reach the most vulnerable parts of you. Get ruthless about your access, your boundaries, and your energy, not because you hate people, but because you finally understand that protecting your peace is part of protecting your future. And once you've decided who truly deserves access to you, the next challenge is learning how to stay calm when those people or the world itself try to provoke you. Life will eventually test your emotional control. It might come through disrespect, rejection, betrayal, criticism, failure, or the sudden change in behavior of someone you trusted. You can set boundaries and choose carefully who gets into your life, but if every provocation can still hijack your emotions, you're still exposed. A person doesn't need physical power over you to influence you. Sometimes all it takes is their ability to make you angry, afraid, insecure, or desperate enough to act without thinking first. This is exactly why emotional control is one of the deepest forms of toughness there is. You have to become ruthless about what you let your emotions decide for you. Emotions are useful sources of information, but they make terrible rulers. Anger might be telling you that a boundary has been crossed. Fear might be warning you that something needs your attention. Disappointment might be showing you that your expectations didn't match reality. But information isn't the same as instruction. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to act on it right away. This gap is what separates a reflex from real strength. Picture someone insulting you on purpose while others are watching. Your gut reaction might be to defend yourself instantly, raise your voice, or fire back something meant to wound them just as hard. But the moment you do that, they've learned something powerful. They now know they can steer your behavior just by hitting the right emotional trigger. The insult itself might only last 5 seconds, but if you spend the next hour arguing, justifying yourself, and replaying it over and over in your head, they've stolen far more than those 5 seconds from you. Being ruthless doesn't mean acting like it didn't hurt. It means refusing to hand over control just because it did hurt. Pause, watch, then choose your next move, because that pause is exactly where your power lives. You are not obligated to respond to every provocation thrown your way. Some people stir up emotional chaos on purpose because they know emotional people are much easier to manipulate. They say something hurtful, then sit back and wait for your reaction. They criticize you simply to get your attention. They question your worth, so you'll scramble to defend it. They stir up conflict because your reaction gives them a feeling of control. The second you react without thinking, you're playing right into their plan. But when you stay composed, that plan stops paying off. This doesn't mean you should put up with real disrespect or stay quiet no matter what. Emotional control is not the same thing as weakness. You're fully capable of confronting someone without losing your own composure. You can say calmly and firmly, "Don't speak to me like that." You can walk away from a situation. You can hold a boundary. You can make a hard call. What makes the difference is that your action comes from clear judgment, not an emotional outburst. Anger actually becomes useful the moment you turn it into information. Instead of asking, "How could they do this to me?" try asking, "What does this behavior actually show me?" Instead of jumping straight to revenge, ask yourself what response would truly protect your interests. Instead of trying to prove you're not weak, ask what action would show that you respect yourself. These kinds of questions shift you out of pure emotion and into real strategy. The same idea applies to fear. Fear tends to grow stronger the more you run from it. You dodge the conversation, delay the decision, cling to what's familiar, and convince yourself you're just being careful. But every time you give in to fear, that isn't even necessary. You're training yourself to keep avoiding things. You have to learn to sit inside discomfort instead of escaping it right away. Your heart can be pounding while you still stay calm. Your hands can be shaking while you still take action. Your mind can picture failure while you still keep moving forward. Courage was never about feeling no fear. It's about refusing to let fear be the one making all your decisions. You also need this same emotional steadiness when things go well. Praise can be just as dangerous as criticism if you let it define who you are. If one compliment convinces you that you're better than everyone, and one insult convinces you that you're worthless, you're handing other people way too much power over how you see yourself. Build your identity from the inside out. Know exactly who you are when no one's clapping for you. Know your own standards when nobody's watching. Know where you're headed even when nobody else gets it. Once you have that, praise becomes something nice to receive rather than something you need, and criticism turns into useful information instead of something that tears you apart.